Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all the people who are joining in from around the world, talking about procurement, talking about part of supply chain, but a very critical element of supply chain, procurement, and how it can be a very critical supplier or a very critical element to support the other functions and working together with other dimensions of supply chain for a successful and a fruitful supply chain network to be successful. We are joined by expert panelists from around the world, I would say, because Andy is joining us from UK and Umang from UAE. Andy, good evening from UAE.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Umang, good evening to you as well.
Good evening, everyone.
Amazing.
Hope everyone's good. Yeah.
Thanks for joining in. Before going to the details of today's subject, I would like to ask Umang to introduce yourself, and then I'll move on to Andy as well.
Okay, so my name is Umang Khan. I'm an associate partner with Supply Chain Talks. It's a consultancy that specializes in end-to-end supply chain transformation, process streamlining, and I've had about 18 years of supply chain experience. I've worked with some very big multinationals, some local companies. I've done a few years of consultancy, and now I'm with Supply Chain Talks. I've worked in over all areas of supply chain management. My specialization is now end-to-end supply chain transformations as well as digitization. So I specialize in both. And that's that.
Yeah. Thank you, Umang, for joining us today to discuss this wonderful subject. Andy, over to you.
So, Andy Neilson, I do procurement, I do supply chain. I've done it for, over 35 years. I know, I look young in comparison. But I've worked in corporates, in fitness, leisure, travel, manufacturing, FMCG, fellow of SIPS, fellow of the Institute of Logistics and Transport, Institute of Supply Chain Management, winner of the SIPS Award in 2008. Came out corporate world in 2017. And to be honest with you, I'm a hybrid consultant, interim trainer. My specialist subject, I guess, is relationship management when it comes to procurement. I'm a great believer in that procurement, supply chain, logistics is all about two things, which is relationships and common. I know you've got AI nowadays and you've got all the technical side of specialisms, but if you can't form a relationship and you haven't got a degree of common sense, then to be very honest, you may well struggle in procurement and supply chain. But that's me. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's quite a experienced panel today we have to speak on this wonderful subject. Today we are going to speak on procurement as an internal supplier, serving the business from within. It's an important task for the procurement as such. Procurement, back in those days, we used to take, Umang, if you could resonate with it, we used to take 3 quotes. So that was procurement. So 3 quotes, L1, L2, and L3, and then the cheapest would go, the order would be awarded for the cheapest one. So that was procurement all about. But then things are changing. It's all about value creation. 2025, lots of discussion on procurement being a very critical element in the supply chain. So it's not just getting about the lowest price. It's all about driving strategic value. So today we are going to discuss procurement from an early involvement in business planning to strategic sourcing that unlocks innovation. The first question before I go into details, which comes to my mind, is how can procurement align its objectives with overall business goals? So that is one question which is very critical to understand. How can procurement itself stand as a critical element or self-sufficiently stand as a critical element and support its business objectives? So let me pose this question to Umang and then I'll move on to Andy as well. How can procurement align its objectives with overall business goals and demonstrate value beyond cost savings to internal stakeholders?
Okay. Look, good question, great question, but I'm going to start the other way around because you used the term already, value creation. Yeah. First of all, as a function in procurement, I believe we need to redefine what value creation means. So And you mentioned back in those times, it was L1, L2, L3, okay, three codes. And that was value creation at that time, to be honest, okay? 10%, 20%, 18%, 25% versus previous year. But that's not value creation anymore. What value creation means today is, let's talk business terms: speed to market, supplier resilience, innovation access, sustainability. And this is how we create value in an organization, in a business, and as a function in procurement. And I think the biggest unlock here when it comes to value creation is where you can create value, and you can create the biggest value creation by doing this thing, which will lead to all of this, is building meaningful partnerships within your supplier network, not just by negotiating better deals, like I said, 10-20%, but by actually building the relationship. And what does it mean? Because let's be honest here. Speed to market, for examples, your sourcing can either accelerate or delay the entire launch, okay? If you have, I mean, especially in times of uncertainty or crisis, if you have the right partner, you can reduce the risk and protect the continuity. So solid supplier resilience, innovation process, if only if you're able to engage your supplier early in the innovation process. Now, not only you're able to use more minds in terms of creative thinking, but also you will come up with better, and let's just say all of this eventually leads to better costs. So you will have better cost effective solutions. And sustainability, it is, I'll just say this one word: it's either won or lost through a procurement decision. Who do you choose? How do you build that relationship? So first of all, we need to redefine what value means here, and we need to redefine in terms of what business is asking for. Business is not asking for what your KPIs are as a procurement function. They're asking for better speed, better agility, more access to innovation, more supplier resilience, sustainability. And then how can procurement align its objective with the overall business? It's very simple for me. Alignment starts with proximity. The more closer you are to the business, you understand its priorities, you understand the pressure points, you understand the cross-functional challenges. So automatically it means that you need to stop operating in a silo, and you must be embedded as part of the core functional cross functional team, and not just supporting from the sidelines. That okay, this is a sideline project. No, you need to be part of the team. And I think then, so there's one thing which is proximity, deeply understanding the business. And second critical shift, I think, is timings. When in the process do you get involved? So you don't get involved when it's the execution stage. You get involved when it's planning, idea creation, brainstorming, strategy stage.
Yeah.
Because this is where you can truly meaningfully contribute and shape the sourcing strategies accordingly. So proximity and timings very important, and then redefine the value. Because once you have a long-term collaborative supply relationship, and you will see all throughout this session, my key point, that the key takeaway is to have very strong supplier relationships, which are not just squeezing the margins out of them, which is actually giving a win-win scenario to them. So they can, along with you, drive the speed, the resilience, and all that your business is looking for.
Absolutely.
That, yeah.
I came across a quote on this: procurement must stop being the gatekeeper of savings and start being the gateway of value. And the best procurement teams aren't just cost cutters, they are value creators, innovation scouts, and trusted advisors. Andy, over to you on base of what Umang said, and how can procurement align its objectives with overall business goals?
I think you made some very fair points there. From my perspective, and yeah, I remember the old days as well. But now I feel that stakeholders and internal functions are looking at procurement or to be a trusted partner.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, procurement don't spend any of our own money. We always spend other people's, which is very nice. But by the same token, we got to appreciate that it is a stakeholder's budget, and the decisions we make or we provide recommendations on to align to a stakeholder's requirements. And those requirements and needs will be different by function. So IT stakeholders will be very different to marketing, for example. I think that the proximity piece is a very valid point made, because you do not want to be seen to be trying to dictate from a distance. Yes, there's control and governance, but the control and governance need to be company-wide, not specific to stakeholders. And it's how do you become facilitators to that value stream that you mentioned earlier, Umang, in terms of how can I take the pain away? How can I take the pressure off? How can I be proactive, structured? How can I prioritize what the strategic opportunities are aligned to both corporate and functional goals? You don't want to spend 6 months retendering stationery, which is, I don't know, $20,000 a year, when you've got a corporate spend of 4 million on another category. So it's about doing the basics well. It's about listening more than speaking. We as buyers like to talk. We like to communicate, but communication goes both ways, and you need to listen and play back to your stakeholders what it is you're hearing, i.e., what is it they want. So that would be my summary. Is how do you become a trusted partner of yours in order to align yourselves to what they ultimately want and need?
Absolutely. And I think Umang also mentioned, and you also mentioned, trustworthiness or the trusted business partner. This is so critical because procurement is often seen as a team, but nowadays it's changing. But it used to be seen as a team where the cost or maybe the quotes are being taken. So how can a procurement team be a trusted business partner? Because they need to be involved in all the discussions, early discussions, the project discussions, the finance discussions, not only just the cost element of it, but the product element of it. How's the output? What is the desired output of the stakeholder? So, Umang, you can lead the discussion on how can procurement be a trusted business partner.
Look, let's take a real life scenario, huh? I'm in trouble. I need advice. Who do I go to? A friend who I trust. And why do I trust that friend? Because I think that friend can actively listen to me and will understand what I mean. If I feel that mind is shut, I'm not going to go back to her again. Huh? It's as simple as that. So it's real life, it's any function in any organization. If you need to build trust, there are two things that you need to do: deeply understand how others work. That's active listening, observing, asking the right question until you understand how things work, how they work, what is it that they require. So first is deep understanding is required in order to become a trusted partner to somebody. So then secondly, it's not just okay listening and yeah. I mean, you have to also act on it. Action speaks louder than words. So consistently delivering on what's being aligned. uh, I think consistency goes a long way when it comes to building someone's trust. And again, I will say, goes for corporate, goes for business, goes for any sub function, and goes for real life as well. So once you consistently deliver on what's being aligned or what you're expected to deliver every single time, then you become a trusted partner. And if you look at this, deeply understanding and consistency, basically what we're talking about is having an internal consultant. When you act like an internal consultant, you understand the pressure points, the problems, what is the way forward, where the business is headed or where they want to head, and you create solutions to those problems, to solve those problems, to to navigate them in the right direction or help them along the way or facilitate them. Then you build the trust. And there are a few strategies. I mean, I just don't want to talk about this stuff. There are few strategies to get there. First of all, and I think Andy kind of mentioned it in a way as well, that for every function there are different kind of business needs. Marketing is different from R&D, is different from trade, is different from IT, is different from supply chain. So if you have enough resources, then assign a person from your function, from the procurement function, who can who's like a R&D lead, who is a marketing lead or a trade lead or a supply chain lead. So they develop that understanding of the function and they're present where the action is, let's say. Then you co-create goals. Look, I've seen this firsthand in real life. Every time I go to the business and talk my forecast accuracy, my bias, my out of stocks, my this, my that, it's not gonna work. I will say, ditch the jargon, ditch the procurement jargon, co-create the business value, co-create the KPIs. Once you are talking in terms of what they understand and in terms of shared outcomes, that would matter then to both sides. And then most importantly, also, I think bring value, not just the process. Like he said, I mean, as a function, this has its structural governance, compliance hiccups also. There are certain processes that you have to go through. There are, and which is I'm all about processes, but it should not be just process. I have a 48-hour window to reply to this email. There is a 78-hour window before this can begin. Bring the real value, because that's appreciated, and then it becomes more relevant to the entire business as well. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I think you mentioned one critical element, co-create the KPIs. I think not only the KPIs, the goals, objectives, co-create them. Andy, would you like to add something here?
Again, it goes back to the isn't it? I think in my stakeholders, especially when there's always pressure from above to save money, and budgets get cut, etc. So it's not a question of going to a stakeholder and saying, "Look, we've got to save money." It's a question of how much more can we do with your budget? Where else can we get value? And value isn't always in terms of money. And again, co-creation, or at least have the opportunity to discuss what the plans look like, and ensure that you can put your place in terms of the stakeholder. It's a difficult balance because you'll have your procurement needs and you'll have your stakeholder needs. But let's be honest, we're all grown-ups, aren't we? That's the thing. And if you can't communicate and end up with a kind of mutually beneficial plan, then there's something that's not quite right. And sometimes you need to have grown-up conversations. But the other thing I would say, just as a final note, is yes, they'll always get items, but if you're engaging with the stakeholder for the first time, start small, proof of concept, take some pain away, improve a process, deal with an issue with a supplier, whatever it may be. Start small and almost get that proof and the evidence that you can add some value. And before you know it, they'll be asking for you to be involved rather than you trying to force yourself in through the door.
Yeah, absolutely. Early stakeholder involvement is critical. Let's move forward in terms of we discussed on the strategies. We discussed on how can procurement align its objectives. Now let's talk on what are the common challenges we observe in doing this, and what are the common challenges in meeting expectations of the stakeholders. Because procurement, in my personal experience, I would say that when there is a talk on cost, immediately the procurement is referred. When there is a talk on negotiation, the procurement is referred. But then, are they only responsible for negotiations and costing? Why don't they have a seat at the table? A big question. What are the challenges we can actually, as a procurement team, see in terms of responsiveness and bringing efficiency? I would like to start with Andy and then move to Umang as well in terms of discussing the challenges. Andy, over to you.
Yeah, I think that the seat at the table question's been a long-standing one, hasn't it? And you see lots of forward-thinking organizations where chief procurement officer exists and has a place on the board at the table, is able to be involved in the strategic direction of an organization. Not always the case. Sometimes procurement, reporting to finance or other board represented functions. Goes back to the relationships and the proving ourselves. Even in 2025, I still see procurement having to prove itself in organizations because of the lack of trust that certain stakeholders have. They're worried about losing the relationships with their suppliers, with their key suppliers, because they trust them. They don't want service interrupted. They see potentially procurement coming in it for not for the better. So it goes back to how do we communicate to all parts of the business and reassure them? Same with the suppliers, because suppliers, again, if it's a untreated category, for want of a better phrase, suppliers are going to greet procurement with a degree of cynicism around they're just coming in to renegotiate lower costs. So we're always on a bit of a PR trip, into not looking to upset the apple cart. We're not looking to change things negatively. Speaking for myself, I'm certainly not there to bang the table and demand lower costs. But what I do want is value, and I want to explore it on a joint basis, whether it's with stakeholders or suppliers. And I think the man made the point earlier on about being consultative in our approach, because that's what we are. We are business consultants who have procurement. It's all about relationships, internal and external. It's doing what you say you're going to do, and it's doing it in a way that is not adversarial. It's not going in with big shoes and going, I'm procurement, therefore we must. Listen, align, adapt. Yes, we've got specific processes in every organization, but we have to adapt to stakeholders' needs, and at times we have to adapt to buyers don't always have to think of the global brands that are out there we're trying to negotiate with. We go to Microsoft and say, I want 10% off if I buy 10 laptops. I know what the answer would be. So we've got ourselves as well. Just because we're buyers doesn't mean we have the power either. So same with stakeholders. It's all about relationships. It's all about listening. It's all about having that degree of common sense and not being stupid about it. We're a value-added function. We're a function designed to help, not designed to impede or frustrate. So
yeah, absolutely. Umang, would you like to add something here?
I'm going to add a couple of lines. Kind of completely agree with what he said. The answer kind of lies in the question you asked. Why don't we have the seat at the table? And why are we only contacted for negotiations? Because we are trusted for negotiations only. So the thing is misalignment between what the business needs and what procurement as a function is designed to deliver, and it's been delivering year on year and year. So that's why we need to bring that mindset shift. I would say that this is not just negotiations, and to be honest, negotiations again. It kind of, if you're trying to squeeze too much out of your own business partner or your supplier, kind of ruins the relationship there. So it kind of negates the whole idea of building upon it. So the key, what I'm trying to say is that, once again, same thing over and over again, I would say that you need to develop a deep understanding of business priorities. And yes, part of the problem is that the fact that we, like I said, we are structural, we are there to enforce processes, compliance, and control. But it's also a mindset shift. For example, a raw material that gets delayed shouldn't just trigger a delay warning for the production plan. It should trigger the question, what does this actually cost the business? It's not just the fact that the production plan is there. There's going to be now a machine changeover. There's going to be extra labor hours. There's going to be an expedited freight somehow. So that's what I'm trying to say. They need to, procurement as a function also needs to transform in a way. They need to see the full downstream impact on this, not just their immediate KPIs. So, and that mindset shift, that we are running late versus we are actually burning the money, that sense of urgency. Okay, once the business sees that over and over again, like I said, consistently, that's going to build the trust, that's going to earn them the seat at the table that we're talking about. And this is actually the common challenge, the misalignment between what the business is looking for and what we are designed to deliver. So bring that mindset shift. That mindset shift is eventually bring that transformation of value creation that we're talking about today. And yes, you need to have a clear set of expectations. There needs to be SLAs that must be defined. They need to be agreed. There needs to be a process. All of that needs to be. But always the question, am I bringing the value to the process, or I'm just hindering the process? That needs to be always asked.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's touch upon the last bit element of this particular topic on procurement. Andy, I would like to start with you. We all know that procurement guys are techno-commercial these days. They need to be also AI savvy, and you're laughing, Andy, out there. And because technical, commercial, and then AI, and then now sustainability as well. So, would you like to start with how AI or maybe how technology, how procurement really can leverage the existing technology in the markets for continuous improvement? Would you like to share some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the techno commercial. I think that's probably gonna have to go on my LinkedIn profile. I guess, from my point of view, I'm not a techie. When I first went into procurement, we didn't even have computers, let alone AI. So, but it's something we need to utilize. What worries me is that lots of people seem to be saying it's the ultimate answer to everything. I think it is. I think, I use it. Am I particularly good at it? No, I'm pretty rubbish, really, but it's useful for me, and I can see the use in business and in trade and organizations. I just think we've got to be a bit careful that we don't just say this is the only answer, because yes, it can give us insight. Yes, it can give us structured insight. It can give us options. It can give these options could be considered. Need to make the decisions. Let's not take the decision making for business critical products, projects, initiatives away from us people. I'm not saying that we need to sit there and authorize purchase requisitions and then print it on a bit of paper and stick it in the post. I'm not saying that. I recognize the need and I see it, significant benefit. But there's a lot cleverer people than me that can talk about this a lot on a lot more insightful basis. My personal view is, let's make sure we use it, and let's not just think it's going to be the answer to everything. Because at the end of the day, whatever processes and control and governance we have, we still need to follow. But AI can't replace people. Just my view. And people might go, "Oh my God, how old is he?" But that's That's just my opinion. We've got to. It's like all driverless cars, isn't it? You go to San Francisco and you see so many driverless cars, and you think, I'm not going to go in that. It's almost like having driverless procurement. Would you really trust yourself? That'd be my point.
Yeah, even I could not be part of that driverless car unless it is fully tested. And yeah, but things are changing very
Yeah.
fast. And we have this taxi also in Dubai. There's robotic taxis going over the head and then delivering materials,
Mm.
drones. So lots of improvement in AI. Umang, would you like to add something here?
Look, I am a digitization expert. Huh? I have done ERP digitizations to organizations, brought them from Excel to completely digitized tools. I've done WMS, TMS, procurement. I mean, you name it. I've worked with big strategic partners to do this. So let me give my 2 cents on it. This is, first of all, if you have a warehouse with a floor storage, you cannot just jump to robotics. You need to understand that. Huh? You can't go. This is a step-by-step process, and this step-by-step process starts with the human element and ends with the human element. And within that human element, it starts with your mindset. So, first of all, you need to work on that mindset shift. This is the key, and I have done so many of these that I would not go ahead and do a digitization until and unless I know there is this checklist which is there. So first of all, you need to first step change the way you think. Like you said, very beginning of this LinkedIn Live, you said, stop seeing yourself as a gatekeeper. Start believing that you are in the service business. Okay, you said something along the lines. I think not,
Yes.
if not the exact words.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. That's what the mindset shift is all about. Once you know you're there to serve the business, to contribute, facilitate, that's the mindset shift you're going to. Is that kind of means that you're talking about showing up with urgency. Okay, understanding the full big commercial picture, the thing that I keep calling deep understanding, out of the box thinking, creative ideas, like he's talked about supply diversification. It's about bringing new ideas to the table. So if you have that philosophy, that's your first step. Then that, but the mindset also is not alone, because for you to have technology and for you to be able to give your people things like AI or predictive analytics, you need to also give them the time and headspace to act on it. Okay, which means your repetitive tasks at least you can automate. That's the very basic. Okay, your POs, your low value stuff, your approval process, start with automating the repetitive process, so your team is not working on that clutter and is kind of it kind of upskills itself, elevates itself to have the time and the headspace to think on that strategic level. Very easy to sit for us and say these big words, strategic thinking, serving the business. But if you have given them a pile of forms to fill and a pile of files to work on, you can't expect them to think and serve the business and create the value. You have to first ensure that they have the headspace to do that, and you use technology to do that, because the repetitive processes, we are sure that technology can fully take care of it. This is the easier part. Once you have automated what I like to call the noise, then you can elevate them with AI predictive analysis, because now this is not just about reaction, it's about, they can talk about anticipation, anticipating risk at the right time,
Mm.
maybe smarter forecasting, maybe getting better supplier insights, or spot the opportunities using AI and predictive analysis. So then you have given them the time, you have given them the mindset, you have given them the process, you have given them the tools, and you have elevated them. Now you can use them for AI and praise. So this steps comes in much later. The organization needs to do much more before they can make procurement from a structural to the partner that we're looking for value creation function. And then once all of that is in place and you evaluated and there's upskilling in the human, then you can talk about continuous improvement. It's already embedded in the mindset there. Capacity is already unlocked. So you can then talk about continuous improvement and do that because then, it's kind of, you make it better, you make it matter. So then it becomes easier for them to work on, okay, what can I do more, how can I get this done better, how can I make the process better, how can I reduce the waste from my currently existing process, which is way too long, and still make it more effective and more friendly for the organization, but still have my structural compliance and governance fits. So this comes later, and then take feedback from the functions that you're working with, and improve on a continuous basis. But to me, AI, it comes much later. There are few steps you need to, there has to be some foundational steps before you go to that part.
Yeah, the adaptation takes some time, but then basics has to be cleared, as you mentioned.
Yes.
You
You
have
have
to,
to build a
yeah,
foundation before you go there.
yeah, absolutely. And you have to understand, first of all, you understand your repetitive tasks. That's where the companies fail. I mean, that takes a long time when you understand your repetitive task, what is consuming time for your buyers, and then you think about automating stuff. So that was a core discussion around procurement being internal supplier. It's very hard to determine whether it's an internal supplier because suppliers are always considered as an outside stakeholder, an important stakeholder. But then, if you have an important stakeholder like procurement, which is serving from within your organization, it makes a lot of difference, world lot of difference for your whole business cycle. We have been like talking on procurement as an internal supplier. We added some elements of sustainability and technology as well. We are just now 5 minutes away from the close of the session. I'll give 2 minutes to Umang and 2 minutes to Andy to uh, discuss on the conclusion remarks on some of the takeaways for our link our viewers as how we can help the procurement teams to be a better business partner. I will start with Umang and then go to Andy as well. Your concluding remarks.
Not much to say, except, I mean, I think I've said it enough. You have to be at the forefront in order to help the business. Okay, by being at the forefront means understand the business, and by that means take a step back and see the full picture. Once you know that this is where I fit in the puzzle in this big picture, and your role and what contribution and what impact something can cause, the bigger impact, then you will develop this sense of urgency, you will understand the value that you can create potentially, and you will work towards it. So be at the forefront, understand the business, and have a deep understanding of the stakeholders there. That starts with it. And once you achieve that, from there on it gets better and better.
Andy?
Listen. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to your stakeholders. Listen. Facilitate. It's not all about us. It's not all about procurement. As much as we think it is. I'd love to go through life think it's all about me, but it's not. It's where can I help? Can I add value? Where can I remove pain? How can we make it fun? Because work is, let's be honest, it should be about having fun as well. But we are process driven as procurement people. Our stakeholders, not necessarily so. IT, yeah, probably. Marketing, less so, because that's the nature of the beast. We just need to adapt. We need to adapt ourselves to suit our suppliers and our stakeholders and not expect them to adapt to us. We're there to help. We're not there to dictate, and we're not there to our views on and ways of working on other people. We should be working collaboratively. But I think that's the key thing. Just listen and be normal, So
Yeah. Just listen and be adaptive. On that note, we will wind up today's session. Both Umang and Andy are available on LinkedIn. They are very much available on LinkedIn to take all your questions, your clarifications on this particular subject. If you have anything, just route it to them. They are open to guide you through this whole struggle. I would say that it's a struggle, but then it ultimately culminates into some kind of a very big satisfaction for the business as a whole. So thank you so much for today's session, Umang and Andy, for spending with us on the Networking and Learning Group's Sunday's evening session on the most important topic on procurement as an internal supplier serving the business from within.